Hi guys, and welcome to my 13 favorite books of 2023. These are not in order because I'm bad enough at picking favorites as it is. There's no way I could have actually ranked them. There's also a little bit of everything, mostly romance, but there's also some thrillers and some fantasy. And please let me know what your favorite reads of last year were, because honestly, I'm in a little bit of a slump right now and I need help. I need some good recommendations. Starting off with Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This was her new release this year. It's about two doctors who work together and they get off on the wrong foot, but it turns out the love interest just has really bad anxiety, so he decides to write her a letter to explain and apologize, and they end up writing letters back and forth. That's how their relationship starts, and then they end up fake dating. I loved this. I thought it was so cute and sweet. I loved them, specifically the love interest. I loved him so much. If you love like a shy, awkward, sweet love interest, this is your man. And just the anxiety rep in this was so good. I loved it. Abby Jimenez just kills it every time. Next is a fantasy, Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Do not spoil the rest of the series, please. I'm not done with it. I am currently on Heir of Fire, but so far I am loving this series. I wasn't sure I was going to because I read the first ACOTAR book this year and really didn't like it, but so far I like this one so much more than I liked that one. It follows Selena, who's an assassin, and this book is about her entering a competition to be the king's assassin, and there's a bit of a love triangle situation going on between the prince and the captain of the guard. And it is a fantasy, but what I like about it as someone who doesn't read fantasy that much is that it starts off with basically like no magic or no fantasy elements, and then as the story progresses, there becomes more and more fantasy. And I just really loved this. I couldn't put it down. I read the first 3 books in like 1 week because there's a prequel, Assassin's Blade, that I read first. And I'm really excited to continue the series in the new year. Next is a thriller, The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is about a woman who's a caretaker, but she gets fired, or not fired, she gets like suspended, and you don't know why. And this is her first job back after being suspended, and it's for a woman who is thought to have killed her entire family 50 years earlier, but there was never enough evidence to actually convict her, so she has just lived out the rest of her days in this cliffside mansion, and she's had a series of strokes, so she actually can't speak. When the caretaker shows up, the woman decides that she wants to tell her everything that actually happened 50 years ago, and they start communicating through a typewriter. I thought this was really interesting. I loved the setting. I love like a secluded, coastal, kind of creepy setting. I thought the story and I thought the twist, or twists at the end, were really good, and a lot of them I didn't see coming. I will say there's a lot going on at the end of this book. Like, there are multiple twists and things that happen. Like, it's kind of a lot, but I had a really good time reading it. I thought it was really fun. I feel like I'm physically incapable of making a video and not talking about Emily Henry, but another favorite of mine of the year is Happy Place. This follows Harriet and Wynne, who were college sweethearts. They were together for like 10 years, but 6 months ago they broke up, and they're all in the same friend group, so they haven't actually told their friends that they're broken up yet. And every year they take this summer trip to this cottage in Maine, and they think it's gonna be fine because Wynne isn't supposed to be there. But then Harriet shows up, realizes that he's there, and they also realize this is the last year that they're gonna be able to take this trip because they're selling the house. So basically they decide to just make it a good experience for all their friends. They decide to fake date and not tell them that they're actually broken up. So it's like a fake dating, a second chance romance, forced proximity, all tropes I love. And I specifically loved the main character in this. She talks a lot about loneliness and how her friends are like her found family, and how she's kind of having a crisis because she feels like her friend group is separating and getting older. This is just a beautiful book. My hand is like cramping from holding those heavy ones. Another romance, Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is a small town romance. She's like a very goody two-shoes angel, and he's more of a bad boy. It's actually the second in a companion series. The couple from the first one is a famous pop star and small town boy, and this is his sister and her bodyguard. And because she's so innocent, she's never had a boyfriend, he becomes her dating coach. I just loved this. I loved them. I loved the small town. It was literally stars hollow, and I just loved their chemistry and their dynamic. I thought they were so cute together, and I feel like they perfectly balanced each other out, and they really brought out like good sides of each other. If you want just like a short, easy read, small town romance, cute book, this is for you. Next up we have another fantasy, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is actually the first fantasy I ever read besides like Harry Potter. It follows 6 people who are trying to pull off a heist. There's a convict, a sharpshooter, a runaway, a spy, a heartrender, and a thief. They have the like thrown together Motley Crue sort of vibe. They don't really get along, but they come together so they can get the money for this heist. And you get them trying to pull off the heist, but you also get all their backstories. And I just loved this and just invested in all the characters and what was gonna happen. If you've seen the Shadow and Bone TV show, the characters from this are in that, which rest in peace Shadow and Bone, by the way. I can't believe they canceled that. And again, like I said before, it's a fantasy that is pretty easy to understand. It's a YA, which again, as someone who doesn't read a lot of fantasy, I appreciate, because if I have no idea what's going on and I'm super confused, like I'm just not gonna finish it. I'm sorry, I don't have the brain power to be doing all that. So this was perfect. Next up, we have another thriller, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This is about 6 college friends, and one of the friends ends up murdered, and they pin it on her boyfriend, but they never actually figure out what happened. And now it's 10 years later and they're at their college reunion, and they basically decide to just figure out what happened once and for all. So it's past present timeline, and it takes place at, I don't know if it actually takes place in the South, but I felt like it took place in the South because they talk about like sororities and it has like that vibe to it. It is kind of giving If We Were Villains, kind of, which is one of my favorite books ever, but if it was set at like a southern school, like just like a regular college. I thought the main character was really interesting because like she sucks, like she's not likable, but you also do kind of feel for her because you get her internal monologue. I really liked the 2 timelines. I liked the twist at the end. I didn't see it coming. Maybe I'm just gullible. And this was just one of those thrillers that I couldn't put down. Like I just had to know what happened. I finished it in like one day. Then we have The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I loved this book. So obsessed. It's a romance with magical realism. She inherits her aunt's apartment, and when she gets there, the apartment is 7 years in the past, which is never explained, by the way. And I don't even like magical realism normally, but I loved this one. I feel like because it was mostly grounded in reality, like obviously that isn't gonna happen in real life, but it wasn't like so crazy and out there. And this book to me just felt like a warm hug. It was so comforting and just cozy and beautifully written. There are so many beautiful quotes in this book. I never annotate books, and I was underlining left and right. I really liked the love interest in this and their relationship. It's very intimate, I think, because so much of it just takes place in the apartment. It's just very intimate and sweet, and I love this so much. And I feel like I saw people talking about this, but it's still too underrated because it's so good. Then I finally read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Again, I also feel like I can't make a video without talking about The Hunger Games, so I'll be brief because I really have talked about this so much. I feel like I talk about it in every video, but I loved this. No shock. I love The Hunger Games. I thought this was really good. I was so mad at myself for putting it off and not reading it until this year. If you somehow don't know, this is President Snow's backstory, where he is a mentor in the 10th Hunger Games, and he's mentoring the girl tribute from District 12, and this is just fantastic. If you're a Hunger Games fan and you haven't read it, or maybe you saw the movie, definitely read it. The movie's amazing, it's so good, but the book is definitely better and definitely one of my favorites of the year. Then we have Ali Hazelwood's new release, Love Theoretically. I loved this. I think it's my favorite Ali Hazelwood. Could be the next book also, but I think it's this one. Wait, did this come out this year? Because I just realized, yeah, it did come out this year. Okay, girl boss. This is about Elsie. She's an adjunct professor and she fake dates people on the side for extra money, and she ends up being up for this job as a professor at MIT. But when she gets to the interview, she realizes somebody on the hiring committee is her fake boyfriend's brother. And because she gave like a fake identity when she was fake dating him, he thinks that she's like this liar and scammer and is playing his brother. But she also doesn't want to betray the fake boyfriend's trust and like explain the entire situation. So she's basically like, no, trust me, I'm not awful. And he's like, I literally don't believe anything you say. So it's this whole thing. Of course, they end up like being attracted to each other, and it's just so good. Like, I loved the couple so much. I loved Elsie. She is the pathological people pleaser. Like, she is literally a chameleon. So I loved seeing her find herself, loved the love interest, and really enjoyed the side plot of like the MIT interview and all that. They also have a professional rivalry kind of conflict. So there's a lot going on in this book, but it was so good. Definitely Ali Hazelwood at her best. The last 3 I actually don't have physical copies of. I should definitely order them. But the first one is Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first YA novel. In my opinion, it's a little bit more new adult. This is about a prodigy chess player. She played all growing up and was really good. But she stopped, and now she hasn't played in many years. Her friend convinces her to sign up for a charity chess match, and she ends up beating the literal best chess player in the world, who turns out to be the love interest. And because she wins this match, she ends up getting this chess fellowship. And I just was really invested in the main character and her story. She's the oldest of 3 girls and her mom is not in good health, so she's basically the caretaker and the provider for her family even though she's only 18. And I actually loved reading about the chess. I was so invested. I have never played a game of chess in my life. I honestly thought it would be really boring to read about, but it was so interesting. It was like a sports romance, which I wasn't expecting. And I loved the relationship. I was a big fan of the love interest. He basically becomes obsessed with her after she beats him. And Allie Hazelwood just keeps getting better and better. I love her. Another book I loved was Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is a cowboy romance, which I discovered cowboy romances this year and loved. He's a single dad and he's trying to find a nanny, but he can't really find any that he likes. So his sister-in-law volunteers her best friend for the job and she comes and lives with them while she's the nanny. So it's forced proximity. I just love single parent books, forced proximity, all that kind of stuff. So this was right up my alley. And this was just fun. I had such a good time reading it. I read a few cowboy romances this year and this one was definitely my favorite. Then last but not least, we have Betting on You by Lynn Painter. This is another YA romance. It's a When Harry Met Sally retelling. The 2 main characters meet on a plane initially and they don't get along. They're like polar opposites. Then they run into each other again a few years later and now it's a few years after that and they end up both working together at a hotel. And if you've seen Harry Met Sally, it's basically about how girls and boys can't be friends, but then it's a friends to lovers romance, and that's exactly what happens. They become friends. They're both also trying to get over their exes, and I just was obsessed with this book. I literally loved it so much. I loved them so much, specifically just their dynamic. They are the perfect friends to lovers. They are friends first, which I just love. They flirt, they tease each other, they're there for each other. Literally one of my favorite dynamics I think I've ever read in a romance. And they also end up fake dating for a bit, for like a weekend trip they go on. This is just one of those books that has stuck with me. I read it like a month ago and I have not stopped thinking about it since. I want to reread it already because I just can't stop thinking about it. Again, a very quick read. I could not put this down. I read it in one day and just so sweet and just so good. If you love YA romances, please check this one out because I am obsessed. Those are my 13 favorite books of 2023. Again, please comment your favorite books of 2023 because I'm in a slump and we just can't be starting off the year in a slump. I won't accept that. I need some good recommendations. I'll have all my other socials linked down below if you want to find me anywhere else. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!